All right, let's do it. We're diving into servant leadership today. You know that whole thing where it's less about the boss calling all the shots and more about like lifting your team up, giving them the power to do their best work. It's a really popular idea, but does it really work everywhere, like across different cultures?
That's the big question, right? Does one size fit all? That's what we're really digging into today.
And we've got a great source this time. It's a blog post, actually, by this business leader who's worked in both Western and Eastern companies, specifically in Taiwan, which is interesting. And get this, they used to be all about servant leadership until they worked in Taiwan. It's kind of a wild turn.
It really shows you can't separate leadership from culture, right? It's like trying to make an app work on, say, your phone when it was built for a totally different system. The idea might be great, but good luck getting it to work.
Okay, so basically, the author's saying that servant leadership, which a lot of Western companies love, might not go over so well in Taiwan.
Yeah, and it's not even that it can't work, but that there are very specific cultural reasons why it might not. Like, think about power dynamics at work, right? In a lot of Western companies, it's pretty equal. People are supposed to speak their mind, even disagree with the CEO, politely, of course. But in a lot of Eastern cultures, you've got this deep respect for authority, for hierarchy, that changes things.
It's so true. Imagine some new employee right out of college in a meeting in the U.S. They're full of ideas, maybe even disagreeing with the CEO on something. In some companies, that'd be awesome. Shows they're a go-getter. But in a more traditional company, that could be seen as like disrespectful, not knowing their place.
100%. It's not that one's right or wrong. It's just different expectations. So now, try doing servant leadership there, where the leader is acting like a servant in a place that's all about respecting authority. It's going to be confusing.
Totally. Like showing up to, I don't know, a fancy dinner in your bathing suit. You're both wearing something, but it's not exactly the right vibe, you know? So beyond the whole power thing, what about what employees expect? That's got to be different too, right?
Oh, definitely. In a servant leadership kind of place, employees might think their boss is going to help them grow in their career, put them first, even if it means less profit. It's about feeling like you're a part of something bigger, not just getting a paycheck.
Yeah, less do what I say, more like, let's figure this out together, and hey, how can I help you grow? But that's not how it works everywhere, right?
Right. Some places, people just want to know their job is safe, do what the boss says, and that's that. And hey, maybe that works for them. But think about how well servant leadership would work there. All this sharing and empowerment. Would it even make sense?
Our author actually mentions this, how resistant to change Taiwanese companies can be. Like, they've been doing things a certain way forever and suggesting a new leadership style, especially one that shakes up who's in charge. Forget it.
And we've got to unpack that resistance, right? Is it just we've always done it this way, or is there something deeper going on there culturally?
I think it's got to be more than just habit, right? Like, Taiwan's history is a big deal here. They industrialized so fast, the economy boomed. It shaped everything about how business works there. It was all about efficiency, hitting their goals, and staying ahead of everyone else in a crazy competitive global market. So a more traditional leadership style, someone calling the shots from the top, that makes sense in that world.
Right.
Why change if it's working right?
Right. And that actually leads to another leadership idea the author talks about. Serve up, coach down. They compare it to servant leadership, and it's pretty different. Servant leadership is all about empowering your team, but serve up, coach down. It's about serving your boss, but coaching the people below you, making sure things get done, hitting those targets we talked about.
Interesting. So less about everyone having a say and more about everyone being on the same page, making sure the company wins. I can see how in that kind of high-pressure, results-focused environment, that might be the more appealing option.
Exactly. Different values, different priorities. Seeing them side by side like this, it's cool, shows how many ways there are to lead, even in one place.
It's like, I don't know, comparing a big orchestra to a jazz band, right? Both are amazing music. But the structure, the feeling, totally different. One's not better. It just depends on what you want.
And who's listening, right? Now, the author, they specifically say they saw this resistance to change with new technology. Some Taiwanese companies, they just weren't into it, which is weird, right?
Because you think of Taiwan, you think tech. But I guess even in a place known for being cutting edge, some people just don't like change no matter what.
Totally. And that's where the author seems to be saying, maybe, just maybe, some servant leadership could help. Like if you're trying to build a team that's adaptable, that likes new ideas, that could be valuable.
Not throwing out the old way entirely, but borrowing some new tricks, right? Just to keep up.
Exactly. Leadership isn't one size fits all.
This has been awesome. But before we go too far, we've been talking about Taiwan a lot. Can we really say this applies to, like, all of East Asia? Is servant leadership facing this everywhere?
That is the question, and it's important. We can't just assume that what happens in one place is true everywhere, right? Just because one Eastern culture is like this doesn't mean they all are.
So even if there are some common things, like that respect for authority, we can't be sure every Eastern culture feels the same about servant leadership.
Exactly. Every country, every part of that country, it's all got its own history, its own way of doing things. That affects how business gets done.
It's like saying, oh, everyone in Europe loves soccer and pasta.
Right.
Like, yeah, those are popular, but come on, the whole continent, people are different.
Right.
It's like, I don't know, saying everyone in Asia loves spicy food, or everyone in South America is like an amazing dancer.
Exactly. Every group's got its own thing, right? You can't just assume. It's about seeing those differences, not pretending they're not there.
Okay, so after all this, what are our big takeaways? What should people be thinking about after listening to this deep dive?
I think the biggest one is simple. Culture matters. You can't just take a leadership style and plop it down anywhere just because it works somewhere else or you read about it in a book. You got to think about the people, the place, the whole context.
Like showing up in a new country and expecting everyone to speak your language, do things your way. You got to adapt.
Exactly. And that actually brings up another big point. Good leaders, they adapt. They don't just have one style. They're always watching, listening, and changing how they do things depending on what's needed.
So less about finding that one perfect way to lead and more about having like a whole toolkit of skills so you can handle different situations, different cultures.
That's it. And that takes, being willing to admit you don't know everything, being open to new ideas, understanding there's more than one way to succeed.
I like that a lot. Okay, so we've talked about how leadership styles and cultures can clash, but is there a way to make it work? Can you blend those different approaches together and get something really cool?
No, that's a great question. And I actually think, yeah, you totally can. It's not about ditching one style for another. It's about finding what they have in common, those values that work anywhere.
So maybe you can take that empowering part of servant leadership, helping people grow and all that, and still make it work in a place that's more hierarchical.
Exactly. You find that balance, respecting the old ways while bringing in new ideas. And that takes being open, talking to each other, trying things out, and never stopping learning.
This has been eye-opening.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's amazing how something like leadership, which seems so simple, gets complicated fast when you bring in culture.
It just shows there's always more to learn, and the best leaders are the ones who never stop trying to understand the world better.
So true. So to everyone listening, keep asking those questions, keep learning, keep challenging what you think you know. Because in today's world, understanding culture, it's not just a nice bonus, it's essential. Thanks for coming on this journey with us. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.